Welcome back, tribe. Let's get into it. Tradwives, the business of being traditional wife influencer. Apparently, it's getting cringe.
This morning, my toddlers woke up with a cough and a little bit of a sore throat, and I don't usually keep cough drops or traditional medicine in the house, so let's make some. These were so soothing.
Same deal here. Oh, my toddlers woke up sick this morning and I just happened to have fresh ginger and elderberry and arrowroot powder and cough drop molds in the pantry. No, you didn't. This was clearly planned well in advance, and it is crazy to me that people fall for it. This is my hot take. I believe the Tradwives have built a business on cosplaying what they believe real homemakers do. Anyone who's an actual homemaker knows that it looks nothing like what Tradwives portray. It's an act, it's a facade, it's a business. They're still technically working, but it's their job to pretend that they don't have a job. Do you make 6 figures a month by posting cooking videos on TikTok? No, probably not. So why are you comparing yourself to someone who lives that life? Tradwives, the new wave of millennial and Gen Z women who are cosplaying 50s housewives on TikTok. Welcome back to another episode of Influencer Insanity, where we cover social media culture and influencer trends. My name is Hannah, and I'll be honest, I've been scared to touch this topic. It's been on my list of topics since the beginning, but there's a reason that it's taken me 7 episodes to finally get up the courage to do it, I guess. And that's because of how divisive and nuanced this trend is. It deals with issues of gender roles and feminism and freedom of choice, the rising cost of living, the rising cost of childcare, the apparent declining value of college degrees, the rise and fall of the girl boss era.
Even that, let me tell you guys, being from Eastern Europe and raised here partially, and seeing what my grandma, the women of her generation, and partially my mother, what they were like growing up, you don't know what a traditional woman is in the United States. They would laugh at the 1950s housewife as being useless, pompous whores that do nothing but sit at home, lounge around, cook 1 or 2 meals, and use the washing machine to wash everything. Their generation was out there washing it manually. Their generation had no washing machines, had no vacuums, had none of the appliances modern day America had. Refrigerators, all that stuff. We're drying meat, hanging it up, curing it for the winter. You have no idea. My grandma could cut up a chicken, pluck it, turn it into a stew in record time. Housewife can't do that without the grocery store. You guys really don't know. Traditional women work. Traditional women work a lot around the house. They take up the bulk of what's needed to be done. Of course, modern day advances in technology has made that all but useless because, washing machine, dishwasher, vacuum, we got robot vacuums now. All that stuff has made the bulk of the housework that used to take a whole person a whole day to do manually has now disappeared. So what do you do with all the extra time on your hands? Well, you kind of turn into the 1950s housewife where you put on a nice little cooking apron, pretend to do a few TikToks, and all the thirsty virgins that have never touched a woman look at your stuff and go, yes, queen, this is a real traditional woman. Meanwhile, she's never cut the head off a chicken. Okay.
And then you add in the rising popularity of social media influencers telling us how we should live our lives, and it turns into a huge disaster. What I don't want to do is bash women who take on the homemaking role. That is not what I believe, and that's not what this video is about. But I do see some issues with the social media tradwife trend and the role that influencers are perpetuating that I think are worth a discussion and worth exposing. So finding that balance and deciding how I'm going to approach this topic has been kind of difficult, but I'm excited to get into this mess and see what we can make of it. I look forward to reading the comments to see what you think of this trend as well, because from what I can tell on the internet, it's very split. It's very polarizing. And I have no doubts that we're going to see some of that discourse in the comments below. The term tradwife is defined as a married woman who chooses to be a homemaker as a primary occupation and adheres to or embodies traditional femininity and female gender roles often associated with conservative or alt-right political views. And in the social media influencer sphere, this often looks like conventionally attractive young women, typically with a religious background, who get all dolled up like 50s housewives and film themselves performing domestic tasks such as cooking elaborate meals from scratch, or gardening, or farming, or cleaning and organizing. And there's often an air of perfection.
See, that is okay. The cooking, the cleaning, the organizing, that's really what traditional women would be doing anyway. You're just filming yourself. It's the beginning part that we just saw that my kid was sick. So I decided to make shit from scratch because I don't have cough drops. I don't trust any kind of there's taking this shit to the extreme and turning it into a cult, which I'm sure we're going to see the cult-ish extreme side of this. But give me a fucking break. Like my grandma, my mother, even me as a little kid was in the backyard. We had a ton of crops that we were planting for all the various seasons. Fruit trees, all the stuff needed collecting, wine from the grapes needed making, all this stuff we were already doing. Filming yourself doing that, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. If you have a homestead and you're doing the homestead life and you're showing feeding your chickens, collecting eggs, tending to your garden, stuff like that, that's normal. And if you make scratch from the stuff you pluck out of the ground of your own backyard, cool story. But this whole, I'm going to make cough drops because my kid is sick instead of going to the store and get some damn lozenges that are all natural with honey, get the fuck out of here.
Tranquility, peace, glamour even. They move so effortlessly, so calmly, with so much joy and gratitude to be able to serve their husband and children in this way. They appear to have endless time and endless resources to spend on simple homemaking tasks, and they couldn't be happier doing it. I can show you easier than I can tell you, so let's get into some examples. Let's start with one of the queen Tradwives herself, Nara Smith. With 7 million TikTok followers and over 3 million Instagram followers, there is a great chance that you've already come across her content if you spend time on social media. And she's likely one of the first to come to mind when you think of this Tradwife trend. Her videos get millions and millions and millions of views on a regular basis, and she posts mostly cooking content. Here's one that I think you'll enjoy.
This morning, my toddlers requested some cornflakes for breakfast, but I don't usually keep those in the house, so I just decided to make them. I combined some cornmeal, corn flour, and a tablespoon of coconut sugar with some water until it was batter-like consistency.
You don't keep cereal in the house, but you have cornmeal, corn flour, and coconut sugar laying around. Okay, let's go with it. She goes on to show us the rest of the process and says that it takes over an hour in the oven for these to bake and get really crispy. My guess is that start to finish, the whole process took at least a couple hours. My question is, who has toddlers that are willing to wait hours for a bowl of cereal? And what mom of toddlers has this kind of time? I'm the mom of a toddler. I don't have this kind of time, I can tell you that. This next one is even more absurd, if you can believe it.
My sister's in town to visit, and she's been craving bubblegum so bad, but she ran out, so I just decided to make it for her. I poured some powdered sugar.
That is ridiculous. What are these comments saying? Because I saw something related to that. My son asked me to make him an apple pie, but we didn't have apples at home. I decided to plant an apple tree in our yard. The danger is when men think their wives are supposed to be this way, not the wives. My toddler's sick. Let me slip in a cocktail dress and do my hair and makeup like I'm about to walk at the Met Gala. Wearing a full prom dress to make medicine for your sick kid is psychotic. I don't usually keep air in the house, so I decided to make some using ingredients from my pantry. Yeah, man, just having flashbacks of being a kid and seeing my mom, my grandma, all the women of the house just in the backyard, literally with shovels, planting stuff, the corn in the summer, and dude, the onions and the tomatoes, and picking the cherries from the cherry tree and the grapes from the grapevines, and making stuff out of the plums. And it's ridiculous, the people that pretend that cosplaying this Tradwife thing act like all it is cooking from scratch in a nice dress on your $1 million kitchen. It's such bullshit. Listen, if you got a man that could afford all that, cool, I get it. And you totally have probably nannies helping you. That's the reality. The nanny is probably watching you right now as you're making your little baking video. Cool story. That's fine. But don't pass this shit off as being truly traditional. This is just we getting paid, because there's a huge market of men that have never had a woman that think that's normal.
Around some wax paper.
But I'm all for true traditional housewives, Southeastern Asia and Eastern European style.
And created a well before combining my gum base with some corn syrup and slowly melting it down. Once that was all melted, I gave it a good stir and poured it into my little powdered sugar ones I created. One of her favorite flavors is green apple, so I made a green apple one, and then also experimented with making a cinnamon vanilla gum. Once the mixture was cold enough to handle, I kneaded it and then stretched it out and made sure to always have it covered in the powdered sugar so it wouldn't stick. Then I rolled out my gum, cut it into equal pieces, and decided to go for a little gum ball. Once all the green apple ones were formed, I moved on to my cinnamon vanilla ones and set them aside before tossing them in some more powdered sugar. To keep them fresh, I placed them in some wax paper, twisted the sides, and repeated that process with all of them. And then they were ready to try. These tasted even better than store-bought gum, and she was so excited. The cinnamon vanilla ones tasted like a donut. I was very pleased about.
Again, gum is too hard to come by in this household, but don't worry, I have gum base and flavorings for it. This is where I really start to raise an eyebrow if I wasn't already, because first of all, gum base is not something that's sold in most grocery stores. I looked it up and it's one of those things you either have to order online or maybe they have it in some select craft stores. It's highly unlikely that somebody would have this as a staple ingredient in their pantry, obviously, which makes me question this whole my sister is here and just happened to have a craving for gum and I just happen to have gum base and flavorings on hand narrative. I call major BS. I'm sorry, I do. This to me is clearly a planned piece of content that she prepped for ahead of time. She placed the orders for these ingredients well in advance. And the hook about my sister had a craving for gum is a lie. That's a content hook. That's not the reality. So then it starts to make me question all of her other hooks. My toddlers were asking for this. I had a craving for that. I just have a hard time believing it personally, especially when I saw this one.
This morning, my toddlers woke up with a cough and a little bit of a sore throat. And I don't usually keep cough drops or traditional medicine in the house, so let's make some. Wanted to make lemon, ginger, and elderberry cough drops. I poured some honey into my pot and then moved on to peeling the ginger. Didn't want to use too much ginger because I didn't want it to be too spicy for them. So I just eyeballed it and then also added some elderberry and about half a lemon. You can definitely adjust.
Bro, give me a woman that I grew up in the household watching. We're going to be out there planting all the sorts of crops, fruits, vegetables, dirt under our fingernails, laughing while we're working in the yard. Got our own homestead, acres of land, away from everybody else. None of this stupid shit. Give me what I grew up on. For those that have been fortunate enough to know what I'm talking about, those are real women. Piles of feathers over there while the chicken's getting boiled, ready to be plucked, cutting it up, using the guts from pigs to make sausages from all their intestines, on the machine grinding the meat and all this shit and spicing it up. And I was a little kid, I was there helping. I was doing what I could. Those were great experiences with the whole family. This shit, nah. Give me a break.
Adjust this to whatever you want to do. After I added all my ingredients to my honey, I gave it a good stir and boiled it on the stove until it reached about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. In the meantime, I prepped my mold. Once my honey was hot enough and reached the hard crack stage, I spooned it into.
Stuff's dangerous because I feel bad for the women that watch this and they'll never be able to live up to this because it's bullshit. It's for content. But for the men that aren't experienced with women that watch this and think this is the idealized version of what a housewife is, will never be satisfied because no woman is ever going to do this shit. You guys need to go to the countryside and see someone that has a farm, see what the farm hands look like when they're working, see the husband. If you could find a family owned farm and see what it looks like when the husband, the wife, and the children are out there working on their land, tilling it with the farm animals. It looks completely different than this perfectly white dress while you're in your kitchen cooking some shit. You don't have a single smudge on you of anything? Okay.
To my mold. I had to work quickly because towards the end, my honey began to thicken. Popped those in the fridge to harden quicker, and then
she sounds like a robot.
Off, I popped them out of their molds. I laid them on some arrowroot powder to prevent them from sticking, but you can also use cornstarch or powdered sugar. These were so soothing.
Same deal here. Oh, my toddlers woke up sick this morning and I just happened to have fresh ginger and elderberry and arrowroot powder and cough drop molds in the pantry. No, you didn't. This was clearly planned well in advance, and it is crazy to me that people fall for it. I saw this video 1 hour after it was posted to TikTok and it had 1.6 million views already and over 2,000 comments of everyone praising her for how amazing she is. DIY cough drops, what can't you make from scratch? Never skip a Nara Smith video. I want to be you. Very creative. No one does it like you. Nara is just that girl. She is mother. You are goals. Here for my daily dose of Nara Smith. Her fan base is rock solid, and I can see why people adore her. She's captivating. She's talented. She seems like an anomaly. But what I want you to know is that she is a content creator. This is her job. Making over-the-top, unrealistic cooking videos is her business. It's not a depiction of her reality. Being a traditional wife is not her job. Making videos portraying the fantasy of a traditional wife is her job. Now let's take this up a notch. What if I told you that she had her third baby a couple months ago? She posted that cornflake video 4 weeks postpartum. She posted the gum video 3 weeks postpartum. She posted this video of herself making a fried chicken sandwich on homemade focaccia 10 days postpartum. Were you up making bread from scratch at 10 days postpartum? Because I know I wasn't.
Yeah, but we have to be very clear here. Not all women are the same when it comes to giving birth. Some lose their bodies completely, get wrecked. Others bounce back like nothing ever happened. Benefit of the doubt is this woman is super dedicated to this lifestyle, which is why she can make these videos nonstop, because she's one of the few that potentially are authentic in living this. And the experience of making content like this is frictionless. I understand from the content creator side of you, because if I had to force myself to get up and watch these, if I had to force myself to talk into a camera, if this provided any friction in my life, like guys, I just hung out with my girl all day today, went to the park, walked around, shot some stuff for the second channel for you guys to see, people walking around the park, coffee, the mall, yada, yada. That's what I naturally do already. So I got a coffee here. I got my green tea drink mix with some nice flavored water with like lime and lemon and stuff. And I just sit down and I make this. I'm already sitting down at the computer watching some stuff and recording. It's second nature. I don't really feel any different. It's not work, if you want to call it that. If she authentically likes to cook like this, likes to make stuff from scratch, there are people like that. Trust me, there are. Then to her, it's nothing making these videos. But if you're more like this blonde woman that's seeing it as incredulous, or perhaps like, who the hell has time for this? Maybe you're projecting a little bit of your insecurities or your realities of being a house mom and how life for you is day to day. But we don't know her situation, in all fairness. We don't know, financially how well off they are. They obviously have their third baby and she's in a nice kitchen, and making these videos is pretty simple for her. And once you get her routine down, setting up the camera there and just recording an entire way through of you making something, sending it out to an editor later. I'm assuming now with all the following she has, she doesn't even do the editing herself that she probably used to in the beginning. So that video, to her, it's a one-time shoot, boom, send it to editor. Editor knows exactly how it needs to be super cut. And then she gets it back and simply watches it and narrates over it very simply with the calm voice that she uses in the hook. And, she's got an entire game plan here of how she makes this stuff, but it doesn't take time out of her day. I'm just sitting here with you guys for 30 minutes, an hour, and then done. This is it. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like we're struggling here. Like this is too hard to do or it's impossible. I used to make 6 videos a day when I first started the channel, a day, because I like to do it. Maybe she likes to do it. So in all fairness, that could be what's happening here. And that would only happen with the absolute top percenter people, because they're the ones that are really embodying the content they're making. Everybody else is faking it and will burn out.
I could barely scrape together the energy to take a shower. I most certainly was not spending hours in the kitchen making bread and gum and cornflakes from scratch the moment somebody in my household requests it. I think a lot of people who see this could understand how it's unrealistic, how it's fabricated, how it's a false reality. But Nara seems to have a pretty split audience. I would say most in favor of her content, most kind of idolizing her. The early crowd who follows her and sees her content in their feed,
So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, guys. The cough drop stuff, bullshit. Obviously, the bubblegum stuff, bullshit. Those are content ideas. But mostly the normal cooking and anything else that's typical of what she would do around the house probably is real stuff, and she's just filming herself and making free content out of it. Just like me when I go on a walk to get a coffee, and on the second channel I'm filming that, and then I'll talk and show you guys around, and that's called but it's content. But it's not me taking time out of my day planning shit, writing down scripts and all this stuff. I'm like, we're going for a walk today. What do we want to talk? What are some questions? What do people want to know? Yada, yada. We can pump those out all day, every day. Yes, sometimes you need to have a script. Sometimes you need to think of a topic specifically, research it, all that stuff. Of course, there are some that are more developed than others, but most of her content is probably like, I feel like cooking this today. And what should I cook tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow I want this. Or what does my husband want this? And my friend's coming over, I'll cook that. And, obviously you need to vary it a little bit. So cough drops and bubble gum is some of the shit that'll vary it. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And the only ones that survive in this business are the ones that are authentic with it.
Shower her with praise and adoration. They absolutely love and appreciate her content, and they think that she's admirable and a real life Wonder Woman who really can do it all. And they have totally bought into the idea that this is real life. And oh yeah, she's 22 years old, by the way. Did I say that? Which I think only adds to her allure of how she seems so established and put together. On the other hand, the late crowd who's being fed her content through the algorithm maybe a few days later, they're more critical. They're not buying it. And they point out that she's portraying a false reality, that new young moms have the time, energy, and resources to do this kind of thing. And then there's people out there who are like me, who are split. I think her videos are gorgeous. I think they're relaxing. I admire that she knows how to make so many things. I think it's wonderful that she's cooking homemade meals. And she seems relatively unbothered. She's just doing her thing, cooking for for her family, and I love that for her. But the other part of me is kind of annoyed and critical, and I had to really get to the bottom of why I was feeling that way. Am I annoyed that she's cooking everything from scratch? No, I don't think that's it, because I also love cooking for my family. I also find that to be really fulfilling. I see the benefit in doing that. Who's going to be like, bad mom, homemade food, gross. Showing your love for your family through cooking for them, disgraceful. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Is it that I'm jealous that she gets to be a stay-at-home wife and mom? I don't think it's that either, because I'm also a stay-at-home wife and mom. I don't think it's her role within the home that rubs me the wrong way. So if it's not the fact that she's a homemaker and it's not the fact that she cooks food from scratch, I think the point that bothers me and others is that homemakers know what it takes to live the homemaker lifestyle, and we know that it looks nothing like this.
Pause. You can't say that because not everybody manages time the same way and not everybody has the same energy levels and discipline. Sorry, but we all get the same 24 hours in a day. We all don't spend the same 24 hours in that exact same day. She's probably more efficient than you. She's just better at being a mom than you. Might hurt your feelings. She's better at cooking than you. It comes easier to her, faster for her. She doesn't spend as much time looking up ingredients. It's more intuitive for her. Some people are just naturally talented. She may be one of the rare few, I'll have to defend her on that is doing a job at a high level because it's intuitive. She's only 22, married with 3 kids, is a stay-at-home mother. Whoever locked that down, obviously earning a ton of money, she could stay at home. The girl is bright, made the right decisions, and monetized it. Some individuals are blessed, my friend. You're feeling inadequate because she's just so much better at being a mother and content creation. That is putting most women to shame. That's potentially what it could be here. Also could be doing this for a business. But third baby at 22 lends me to believe she's one of those rare types that just has the authenticity to sustain in this game forever. That's what's rare.
I think it's too easy to say, oh, well, if her content makes you mad, you must just be jealous of her in some way. I don't think that's truly it. The issue is not with the role itself, it's the misrepresentation of the role. Getting all dolled up to spend 2 hours in front of your tripod making cereal from scratch while your kids are occupied and taken care of by somebody else is not an honest representation of what a homemaker or a stay-at-home mom does. We're watching a curated and privileged fantasy. Most stay-at-home moms do not have this privilege. We know from firsthand experience that making breakfast for toddlers is a challenge. They're hungry, they're impatient, they're loud, they're underfoot, they're in the way, or they're in the next room unsupervised getting into something they shouldn't be.
That's why you had extended families and your grandparents and your parents would be living with you, helping you with the toddler. This is how it was when I was in Eastern Europe, a baby growing up. My grandparents were with me at all times. If my parents needed to do something or they needed help with something, I was left with grandma or grandpa, or I would switch. Grandma and grandpa would go do something and my parents would watch me, but it was an effort of the extended family. So yeah, if you're alone as a mother at home, not having the time or somebody to watch your kid, it gets exponentially harder, of course. Maybe this one does have a nanny. Most likely does have a nanny that's off camera watching the kid, making sure nothing's happening to the baby, all that stuff. Of course, that has to be the reality. Your baby monitor is probably going to be going off in the middle of making your video. You could cut that out, come back and finish, but there might be a little bit of baby throw up on you. Who knows? Or they're living with their extended family. Maybe the mother-in-law and the father-in-law are in their own little casita on the premises. We have no idea. But it is making most modern women who don't have the privilege of having nannies and extended family helping them and all that other stuff that used to come into the traditional upbringing feel a little bit inadequate about the situation. That's a fact.
And we are lucky if we can make them a scrambled egg and a piece of toast before we lose our minds or before they burn the house down. So to watch content like this feels like a gut punch because it's like, how are you managing to do that?
That's the truth. There you go.
Mean you have hours to make cornflakes from scratch in a gown. And I would hate for any new mom or soon-to-be mom to watch this and glean an unrealistic expectation of what motherhood or homemaking looks like. Because this ain't it. I was that naive soon-to-be mom who created this expectation of what my job as a mom was going to look like and how much I'd be able to get done in a day and what kinds of meals I'd be able to prepare and how my baby should be behaving and how much free time I would have for myself. Like, I can't even say that without laughing now. It is so laughable. But I created this image in my head of what I thought my life was going to be like after my baby was born because of what I saw influencers put on the internet, because I didn't know that it was fake. And it wrecked me. I was in for a rude awakening my first few months of motherhood because my life was going nothing like I thought it should, based on what I had seen influencers posting on social media. So I do get heated because this feels like a deeply personal issue for me, something that I have gone through extremely recently, and I don't want other people to experience the same frustration I had when my postpartum experience wasn't going as seamlessly and beautifully and effortlessly as influencers seem to be. This video of her making focaccia at 10 days postpartum has 30 million views, for God's sake. There's got to be at least a certain percentage of those people who watch this because they think it's aspirational or inspiring or achievable, and they desire to live like her and they look at her as a role model. Or there's people who are made to feel bad about their own positions or capabilities or life circumstances because they're not able to do what Nara is doing. But I want people to understand the true logistics that go behind creating this kind of content. I need you to think critically about what's going on outside the scope of the camera lens. What we're watching is somebody whose kitchen is set up like a filming studio. She spent time making herself camera ready for her role, hair, makeup, beautiful gowns. She's prepped exactly what meal she's going to make. She's following a content calendar that's been planned well in advance. She doesn't have a grocery store-sized pantry with every ingredient imaginable. She has lights and tripods. She's taking breaks to position her phone perfectly and get all the different angles. She has arranged childcare behind the scenes that affords her the time and space to create these videos in peace. She's not a one-woman show. She has help. She has resources. She has privileges that most stay-at-home moms do not have. And that is wonderful for her. I do not want to diminish that. She's clearly worked very hard to build her platform that now affords her these luxuries, and that's a well-deserved accomplishment. And truly, there is no judgment and no jealousy coming from me based on that. But what we're not going to do is watch her beautifully curated cooking videos and start beating ourselves up about how we don't have the same time and resources to be doing the same thing for our families. It doesn't make you any less of a wife or...
Yeah, on the technical side, I mean, you can automate a lot of that stuff. You just have little mini tripods with little cameras set up. They don't have to be big, guys. It could look honestly just like this. Here's what it looks like. And this is what it looks like even smaller. Just so you guys get an idea of what could be behind the scenes. This is all you need. This is what it looks like, okay? It's tiny. It's called a Pocket 3. You turn that on. There you go. So you can set these up on a tiny tripod. It fits anywhere. It gives you whatever angle you need. 3 of these, one facing down like this, one the frontal shot where she's cooking, another one from a different angle as she's chopping up ingredients, whatever it is. All videos get synced. Like I said, the editors handle everything. There's no way she's editing any of this shit for herself. I could tell you right now, as somebody who edits all his videos, that's the most boring, time-consuming part of all this is just editing the video. And if you probably go back to her prior content, the very first kind of video she was doing, it was very static, probably the same camera angle. But yeah, you could set all that stuff around in the kitchen. So then once you prep out all your ingredients, which is not hard to do, you just go through the whole process in one go. No second takes, no nothing, whatever. You chop everything up, done, bam, bam, bake everything, show it in the camera. Like I said, it's basically second nature now. Lights, honestly, you can get by on these little cameras. They shoot at 4K quality, 60 FPS. You can get by on your normal camera lights. You don't need a full studio setup with bright ass lanterns and shit for Hollywood. No, dude, you can, especially with the compression on TikTok and the rest of social media, Instagram, your video's never coming out above 1080p anyways. Yeah. Again, once the setup is complete, you just hit turn on, record on all 3-4 cameras, how many angles you want, and done.
Mother, it doesn't make you a bad mom if you feed your kids cereal from a box. It's okay if you're not cooking 10 days postpartum. It's okay if you feel frustrated that every task you do feels like it takes 10 times longer and is 10 times harder than it should be because you don't have extra help and you don't have childcare. You are the childcare. I just want to scream it from the rooftops that the final TikTok video you see does not tell you the full story and that there are endless amounts of unseen help and resources behind the scenes. It's fantastic if you appreciate and enjoy Nara's content, just don't believe that it's real life. That's all I'm saying. Moving on to another super popular influencer in the Tradwives genre, this is Hannah Nealman, also known for her social media handle Ballerina Farm. She's a former Juilliard ballerina, she's a pageant queen, and she's also the mother to 8 children living on a ranch in Utah. And she's amassed a following of 9 million on Instagram.
First, I gotta tell you, that's already a high-performing individual, and they're loaded with money. Utah Farm. This is the real deal, most likely. Juilliard ballerina. That takes some discipline. Like I said, guys, the people that are at the very tippy top, they're like the top 1% that are legitimately probably living these lives. I mean, it's 99% because you will get burned out way too quick. I'm telling you, the amount of effort that you would have to go through to truly live this lifestyle, if that's not who you authentically are, would burn you out in a second. The reason they're so popular and they're doing so well in these niches is because they are the real deal. Believe it or not. I know there's probably a bunch under them that are trying to copy them. There's a reason that they're standing out. But the ones under them that are trying to copy them that feel a little bit soulless, they're going to burn out and disappear. But these people have staying power for their authenticity. Yes, there are high-powered, high-functioning, highly skilled, motivated, devoted individuals. 8 kids, you can't tell me shit.
Yeah. Her family is gorgeous.
Wow.
Her ranch is gorgeous. And she portrays this very idyllic little house on the prairie type lifestyle, milking cows, harvesting eggs, homemade butter and bread, and egg salad sandwiches where everything came from the farm. Ravioli where she made the ricotta cheese filling herself with the milk that she milked by hand.
That's real. That's what I grew up on. That's real. The other chick in nice dresses in her pristine kitchen, not even being dirty with anything, that's a little bit more showboaty for Instagram. Too much glam. That's real though, right here.
The issue that people take with Hannah's content is that everything gives off this air of being humble and modest and down to earth, like she's just homesteading and raising babies and making bread in her little farmhouse in her linen dresses, which might be true, but there's also signs of extreme wealth and privilege that poke through. Most notably, the oven that's seen in the background of a lot of her videos is actually worth up to $30,000, or that the 320
No shit. Have you forgotten? Homestead, Utah, 8 kids, Juilliard ballerina. You don't think her man was probably loaded? What are you guys on right now? If you're that much of a booger brain that you couldn't figure out that this woman's living a privileged life because she's loaded, therefore is like maximum femininity, maximum traditional woman because she can afford to be. Yeah, no shit. If you have to go to work or you and your man are in a dual income or you can't afford anybody to watch your kids or, a multitude of things living the normal average pleb life, no shit, you're going to fall short of that. You don't have the time and the money to be copying that.
28-acre ranch she lives on was listed for $2.75 million when they purchased it in 2018. You're probably going to be hearing my cat Zeke in the background. I cannot, for the life of me, get him to be quiet. I'm at the point now where I've given up. I've let him in and out and in and out. I repeated that last line about the price of the ranch 13 times, and he interrupted every single one of them. My patience is gone. I'm just going to talk over him. So sorry about that. Another thing that people have discovered is that her father-in-law is David Neilman, the founder of 5 commercial airlines, including JetBlue, and whose net worth is $400 million. And another sign of her wealth is that her farm is fully operational and she runs a successful farm-to-table agriculture business. And all of this is fine. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy or successful. But exactly as we talked about earlier, there's clearly unseen privileges that are going on outside the scope of the cute little video we see on Instagram. Some of her followers almost feel cheated once they discover that she's extremely wealthy and she likely has all the money and resources in the world to help her. She's somebody that has generational wealth who left her city ballerina pageant lifestyle to become a homesteading tradwife influencer, seemingly almost like a hobby of hers. She's making herself out to be this traditional wife who stays home and raises the kids and bakes bread all day, but she's actually a wealthy business owner, which therefore makes her content feel performative, like an act. And keep in mind that none of this information about her wealth came to light because Hannah herself offered up that information. In fact, she portrays herself as just the opposite. This post from 2021 says, "With the ink still wet on the real estate contract for our new little farm, we drove to the nearest farm goods store to buy muck boots, overalls, gloves, and straw hats. We had zero experience, zero background in farming, didn't own a shovel or a single animal." She's intentionally trying to give off the impression that she came from humble beginnings with just a straw hat and a dream. And look at this fantastically successful farming business that she's been able to build without giving any credit to her generational wealth or her privileges or the help
Who gives a shit? Her post was true. They had no experience in farming. They bought a house. They had a dream of homesteading. She wanted to be a stay-at-home, and they popped out 8 kids. She never told you she was a multimillionaire, never claimed to be, and never had that as part of her story. She just started the whole thing buying a shovel and figuring it out as she went. And obviously had the money and the backing to start a successful homesteading business or whatever it is that they're doing. You are the idiot that thinks that you can replicate 8 fucking kids staying at home and not already have millions of dollars. We now have to pay millions of dollars to live the lives our great-great-grandparents were living for free. That tells you how inverted the world is.
She had along the way. It was internet sleuths who did some digging and uncovered and publicized this information. I think the Ballerina Farm account is another great example of how tradwife influencers will cosplay as something they're not. And they're doing a really bad job. They're not making it very believable. They build their whole following around being this superhuman, inspirational wife and mother who can manage it all. And they're just hoping that their audience don't think critically for a second about the logistics of what's actually going on behind the camera. And the final tradwife I want to touch on for this video is Estie Williams. She's a self-proclaimed traditional wife, and she has nearly 200,000 followers on TikTok. Unlike Hannah and Nara, she doesn't post much content of her actually doing the domestic labor tasks. She posts mainly sit-down chatty videos about how to live the tradwife lifestyle. For example, this is a video directed at high school girls, giving them advice on what they should do if they want to become a tradwife in the future. Here's a video about how to be feminine in the gym, and some of her tips include wearing scrunchies, wearing makeup, wearing perfume, buying cutesy pink workout gear, and of course, dressing modestly, because you don't want to attract the attention of any man in the gym who isn't your husband, right? This is another video she did on giving tips on how to attract a masculine man, and one of the tips is that you must be an approachable woman, which to her means you need to be feminine, fit, and friendly. And then, of course, there's this one. POV, your husband is on the way home, and it's just her primping herself to be presentable for him. And no, this account is not satire. She is 100% dead serious about all of it, which kind of leads me into the discussion of, is being a tradwife a good or a bad thing? My first reaction to watching her videos is to be appalled and to feel very uncomfortable by it. But then you look in her comments and she has a lot of support, and it's other women leaving their encouragement and praise of this kind of life.
Yeah, shocking, Blondie. Not everybody has your lifestyle or has a feminist background. They just want to live the idealized version of what their grandparents had. You know, when things used to work, men were men, women are women. So in order to attract these so-called traditional men, she's teaching women how to be feminine. Is it all for show? Is it all for making money? Probably, but I can't say the advice is good or bad. I never watched it, but it seems decent based on the little supercut we got here. If she's giving good advice for women to get the attention of men that would actually take them seriously, I'm all for it. That's fine. All she's doing is sit downs and chats. Surely it beats the women that are talking about body counts, rosters, drug use, having chats left and right, pumping and dumping them, girl boss, boss babe, end up collecting cats and box wine. I mean, pick your poison. That one seems far better for society overall than that other extremist
lifestyle. What I found is that people are very split on how they feel about this trend. And I keep calling it the tradwife trend because of the social media component. Obviously, the idea of being a housewife is not new and it's not a trend, but the recent rise of influencers who perform this lifestyle for a camera, for content, for views, for the consumption of others on social media, that is a trend. Each of the tradwives I've shown you in this video have supporters and non-supporters. On one side, some people say the tradwife trend is anti-feminist and that it's setting us back as a society. Like, we worked so hard for women's rights and equality, and we're finally to a point where women are pursuing a higher education and they do have a representation in the workforce. And we do envision more for ourselves than being a caretaker, and dual income households are the norm now. So in a way, the tradwife trend feels like a huge step backwards in time, where these influencers are cropping up.
It's not. It's just people living the idealized lives that you can't afford to live anymore. You said it yourself. Dual income household is the norm. Actually, dual incomes are no longer even viable in the economy we're in. You can't afford to have kids at all. Your paychecks aren't going far enough. You can't even save money. You can't afford to buy a house. The reason people flock to this traditional wife lifestyle is because it's everything you can't afford to have today. That's why it's so popular. We don't want to see some mundane schmuck struggling to pay bills, feeding their kids cereal, not having time to make sure they're putting on their clothes correctly. The shit is inside out, rushing them out the door, go on the school bus, go get indoctrinated at the public school, come back all messed up in the head, and here's some more fucking box dinners showing somebody stressing out just like everybody else is. That shit is boring. Nobody cares. We're seeing how life should be if everything went right. Life went right for these people. That's why it's so popular. That's why it's getting millions of views. They're living your dream. This is why you watch it, because it might motivate some of you to go after it, work out harder, grind for the dream to finally turn it into reality. It's motivation, guys. That's really all it is. That's the reason they have millions of views, because millions of women dream of having that lifestyle, or millions of men dream of having a woman like that, and is using it as a baseline, as a benchmark. It's that simple. It's just modern women are feeling threatened that they can't perform at this level. That's the truth. Yes, part business. Yes, performative in some sense. But yes, it is real. It is out there. There are plenty of women that don't necessarily record themselves that are doing this shit. Hush, hush, you would never know. I know plenty of them. Yes, they all have money. Yeah, it's all wealthy families, or pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and became self-made millionaires and worked hard together, and they have land and a bunch of kids, and you wouldn't know a goddamn peep. They want private lives and they're not sharing shit on social media. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Some people just do things better than you. Don't feel insecure about it. Simply raise the bar of standard. Given that most of these comments are probably from women as well, of course it is. Who would feel the most insecure about this video? Women. Bet you're not a single man here is like talking shit. Man would love to have a woman like that. That is the ideal. I mean, this chick right here says cosplaying is the most accurate word for tradwives I've heard so far. Yeah. Come on, big dog. Come on, big dog. Stick to the corporate job. I should go into the countryside in Romania to show you guys what it's like, really. Well, I got to visit family anyways. If you guys want to see videos like that of me in and around Romania talking about life as an expat, or, immigrating to a different country, life overseas in general, follow the second channel. Links are all in the description below. Appreciate everybody that's been getting consultations, buying shirts, all that stuff supports the channel directly. And join us in the private community and hang out with us for some chats. We do them 4 times a week and would be glad to have some fresh perspectives, man. See you on the next one. Take care.